kind. I'm just trying to get a broad group picture.
Fellow Rotarians and guests, welcome to Hacienda del Sol. We're going to kick off the program with our pledge and song. I'd like to have Pat Lynn come up. Pat joined the club in April of 2004. His classification is education, rural education. He's retired. He's a U of A grad. And according to past President Dave Gallagher, he is the meanest principal in all of Tucson. He's so tickled he's retired. After Pat finishes with the pledge, he'll jump right into the Air Force song in commemoration of our speaker today. Pat.
Thank you, thank you. And not too many of those people left out there like me, I can tell you that. It is for you probably because you got hit so many times. I want to give a little history of, a very short history of the pledge because we forget. We just say a few words. And so we want to talk just a small time. Our pledge was composed with a different text different than was used at present by Captain Birch, an Army officer during the Civil War and later a teacher of patriotism in the New York schools. The form of the pledge used today was largely devised by Francis Bellamy in 1892 and formally adopted by the Congress as pledge 50 years later in 1942. The official name of the Pledge of Allegiance was adopted in 1945. Most of you can remember that. The most recent alteration of its wording came on Flag Day in 1954. I really remember that one, when the words "under God" were added. Would you follow me and say the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. I'd like for Mitch Pizik to come up and do our inspiration. While we're waiting for Mitch to come up, let me tell you a little bit about Mitch Pizik. So Mitch joined. He's a fairly new member. He joined in March of 21. His classification is business service, business consulting. He is the Pizik Consulting Group. He is with graduate of the University of Illinois, and he is probably the quickest Rotarian ever to qualify for a blue badge. Not that we're going to give it to him yet. Mitch.
Home of the free, because of the brave. You're going to meet a true American hero today. God bless the Colonel and the 46,000 men and women who are directly and indirectly under his command at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. I was recruited to move to Tucson 7.5 years ago to run as CEO a large manufacturing firm that's headquartered here. The building was solid, the machines were running well, the employees were getting inspired, yet there was a persistent and perplexing situation. Every 2 hours, most of the car alarms of the cars parked in the parking lot would simultaneously go off. Did I mention every 2 hours? And my office window overlooked the parking lot. What the hell? So after my first couple of days on the job, I started asking why. And one of my guys informed me that our plant and offices were within just a few miles of the great Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, and those were the world-renowned A-10s and F-16s that were flying over our building. And that's what was triggering the cacophony of alarms. Once I understood the lay of the land and the situation in the sky, it became clear to me what I was hearing was the sound of freedom. Bruce, cue the jets! Cue the jets!
No jets. We heard them earlier.
All right. You just pretend you just heard jets. Anyway, that would have been really cool. All right. And as long as these jets are on our side, keep them coming. The more the merrier. I'm an honorary commander at the base. Now allow me to be crystal clear. I don't want to start a panic. It's all honorary, absolutely no command. There are about half a dozen current and past honorary commanders in this room. Our job is to be the liaison between the base and the community. It's an honor and it's a blast. Now, I could show you pictures from May with me at the base firing some grenade launchers a few times, but I won't right now because, once again, I don't want to start a panic. See me later if you're interested, and I'll show you that and some other disconcerting pictures of me on the base. Now, 6 really cool tidbits about Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. It's named after 2 Tucson natives. One went to U of A. Jimmy Doolittle, the World War II hero who later revenged the attack on Pearl Harbor, flew out of here. Amelia Earhart flew out of here. Charles Lindbergh flew his Spirit of St. Louis here in 1927 to dedicate Davis-Monthan Air Force Field, which at the time was the largest municipal airport in the United States. We should all be proud and never take the base nor the airmen or women there for granted. I learned quickly to love the sound of freedom, with or without screaming car alarms, home of the free because of the brave.
We're going to adjourn for lunch. I do want to say really quickly, our district governor, Hank, is here. Very cool. She's been here twice in July. Unheard of. Hank, thank you for blessing us. Please enjoy your lunch. We'll be back in 15 minutes or so. First off, I know most of you have not gotten your meal yet. Please enjoy it when it comes. We've got a very full agenda today. I'm probably going to pass on the introduction of all the guests because between guests and visiting Rotarians, we have 25. So I think that would take a little bit too much time. But I would ask for everybody that is a guest or visiting Rotarian to please stand and let us recognize you. Where is Mike Anderson hiding? Michael Anderson, please stand up if you would. So I want to tell you, Mike Anderson, this is not planned. Mike walked up and just handed me an envelope, and I just opened this envelope. And there's a check in here for $20,000. It's not made payable to me. It's not made payable to me, which is probably a mistake. So if you would sign this over, that'd be cool. No, seriously. This is as a sponsor for our car show. This is our title sponsor. Mike, you're always there. Thank you so much. As you probably noticed, today's meeting is actually sponsored. It's sponsored by the Winers and Diners. I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing them because if you look in the phone book, you won't find us. If you look at any kind of corporation commission, you won't find us. If you look anywhere, you probably won't find us. It's a group of guys that started in 2007 with the sole purpose of enjoying cocktails together. That morphed into let's legitimize what we're doing and let's try to go do something impactful. And we settled on helping Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. This is a group of guys, 60 guys, that get together once a month and has a great dinner, raises some money, and then takes direction from the base on what we can help them with. I think the thing we're probably the most proud of is since we started our visits out on the base, we've been able to help 160 families at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, all with a gift of $1,000 from our group. And by the way, guys, none of the guys get a tax receipt or a gift certificate. It's just stuff that they do out of the goodness of their heart. We've got guys at this table that are guests and members. We also have a whole bunch of folks in Rotary that are a member of Winers and Diners. Would you guys please stand up and let us recognize you? By the way, the colonel who'll be speaking in a moment is also an honorary member while he is here. And the only true honorary member that Winers and Diners has is actually Carrie's husband, Colonel Jim Meager, and he has just been a godsend to our group and somebody that, don't take anything wrong with this colonel, but he's just somebody that really helped us when we got started. So if you stick around in Tucson afterwards, we'll have a fun discussion about that. So anyway, our program today is Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. We're going to hear from Colonel Joe Turnham and Burnham. And his presentation, I mentioned, is the legacy of a partnership between DM Air Force Base and Tucson. First, we're going to do a quick video introduction put together by Rick Rose with our buddy Matt Russell as the talking head.
Our speaker today is Colonel Joseph C. Turnham, the commander of the 355th Wing at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Colonel Turnham comes from a long line of veterans dating back to the American Revolution. After growing up in the Air Force, he received his commission through officer training school. Since then, he has served 3 operational tours in the Pacific, 1 in Europe, and 6 combat tours in the Middle East. Colonel Turnham is also a command pilot with 3,642 hours in the A-10, including more than 1,149 combat hours over Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. Responsible for one of the largest installations and flying operations in the United States Air Force, with 34 mission partners, more than 46,000 personnel, 152 aircraft, and $51 billion in assets, the Colonel's responsibilities also include organizing, training, and equipping a wing comprised of 25 squadrons. The wing currently provides A-10 Thunderbolt II aircraft for close air support and forward air control, combat support, and medical forces worldwide. The 355th Wing also provides combat search and rescue personnel, as well as recovery capabilities using HC-130J Combat King IIs, HH-60G Pavehawks, and Guardian Angel weapon systems. There are significant organizational changes being made to Davis-Monthan's mission, and Colonel Turnham is going to brief them for us. So let's have a patriotic Rotary welcome for today's speaker, Colonel Joseph C. Turnham.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to visit with you on this beautiful Arizona day. It's certainly great to see some familiar faces here. Mark, Bob, all the winers and diners. Marcus, good to see you. It's great to see some new faces as well. I'll be honest with you, after the last 15 months, it's just really great to see some faces. Now, as the intro said, my name is Colonel Joe Turnham, and I'm the commander of the 355th Wing at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. And it's not lost to me that we're eating lunch right now, and I know what happens after you eat lunch and you start to get a little drowsy and maybe feeling that need for a siesta. So don't worry. As Henry VIII said to each of his 6 wives, don't worry, I won't keep you long. Now, since taking command last June, I've had the privilege of getting to know quite a few great Americans in our community, like yourselves. And in those encounters, I've come to realize, even though folks may have lived their entire life in Tucson, some of them don't know much about the base. So I thought I'd start today with a quick overview of Davis-Monthan, or DM as we call it, before going into just a few of the extraordinary exploits of our ordinary airmen, your airmen. And since I only have one mouth but 2 of these, I'd like to finish by hearing what's on your mind, and hopefully we can have a conversation. Now don't worry, this isn't going to be a history lesson, and Mitch already did a great job, thank you, of giving you a little bit some of the details of the background at Davis-Monthan, and certainly all on point. And he's right about it was the largest airport in the U.S. at that time, a municipal airport. And Davis-Monthan has continued that trend in the ensuing century since it's been pretty much around. It's growing into one of the premier bases in the Air Force, encompassing more than 10,000 acres with 153 operational aircraft and more than 3,000 aircraft in storage in our aviation maintenance and regeneration group, which everyone knows is the boneyard. Now, every day more than 50,000 people live and work on Davis-Monthan, and they contribute more than $2.6 billion annually to the Tucson community. In addition to the host unit, the 355th Wing, DM is also home to 34 mission partners from across the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, our active duty, Guard, and Reserve contingents, as well as the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Transportation. To put it simply, there is a lot going on Davis-Monthan. And at the heart of all that activity is the 5,500 men and women of the 355th Wing. Their mission is to rescue and attack. Now, to explain that, I'll ask you to humor me for just a second. And you don't need to close your eyes or anything, but just think for a second, what's the worst day you've ever had in your life? What did that feel like? And how would you have felt if there had been someone who could have swooped in and made all that awfulness disappear? That is what rescue and attack is. And that's what the men and women of Davis-Monthan do. With rescue, it's someone who is alone, they're probably injured, and they're surrounded by the enemy. So we go in, we rescue them from harm, and we bring them home. With attack, it's someone who's pinned down by enemy fire, or they're in a fight they can't win without some help from above. So we go in no matter what, and we attack the enemy. And we ensure our forces win to live to fight another day. We are the U.S. Air Force's 911 force, and our job is to ensure someone's worst day isn't their last day. And while much of the world has been working from home in comfy pajamas over Zoom for the past year, for the Airmen of DM, there has been no telework. You simply can't take an A-10 home, or believe me, I would have one at the house. Instead, the men and women of DM have come in every day since the pandemic began, and they have gotten after the mission, deploying more than 2,500 airmen downrange to the four corners of the world to keep our nation's competitors in check. And while I know I'm biased, I do think we've done it better than anyone else out there. Winning the 2020 Rescue Team of the Year for the third year in a row. On the attack side, winning the 2020 McKay Trophy for the most meritorious flight of the year. Also a repeat in 3 of the last 4 years. Being named the number 1 of 14 bases across all of Air Combat Command for 2020. And not just taking care of the mission, but always our people too. Winning the Air Force's Sexual Assault and Prevention Team of the Year, also a three-peat. The Diversity and Inclusion Team of the Year, the Military Personnel Flight of the Year. The list goes on and on and on. And since air power is a team sport, all of these are team wins. But I'd like to take just a moment and tell you about a few of the incredible individuals on our team. Ordinary airmen doing extraordinary things. First, I'd like to introduce you to Master Sergeant Justin Bauer. Master Sergeant Bauer is a maintainer on Davis-Monthan's C-130 aircraft. And a couple years ago, he was pretty much visited by the Good Idea Ferry one morning. You see, back in 2017, all the C-130s in the U.S. Air Force got new wheels. And with these new wheels came the requirement to periodically inspect the bearings. The inspections required pulling the wheels off the aircraft, sending them into a central depot where they were heated up in a multi-million-dollar kiln so that folks could gain access to the bearings so they could be inspected, repaired, repacked, and then sent back to the base where they came from so they could be put back up on the aircraft. Now, as you can imagine, this process was not quick. In fact, it took about 6 months and created a massive maintenance backlog. Justin knew there had to be a better way, and one morning while pretty much shaving, he found it. He thought, hey, why can't I just heat up the wheels here at DM? And so he got together with some local engineers in Tucson, and they built a temperature probe that they could stick into the wheels. And because of that, they were able to do that inspection locally. That device cost $400 to make. It reduced a 6-month mail order process to something that could be done locally in 6 hours. What's more, it was repeatable and scalable anywhere in the world that has C-130s. That's 70 countries. Not surprisingly, this past spring, Justin's invention won him the Air Force's version of Shark Tank, as he proved the spirit of innovation that's been a part of our Air Force's DNA since its inception is alive and well at Davis-Monthan. Next up is Lieutenant Nick M. And I hope you'll forgive me, but I'm going to protect Nick and refrain from using his full name because I understand we're recording this for the interwebs, and there's some groups out there, let's just say, that they may not appreciate what our airmen do. You see, Nick is a young A-10 pilot at DM. He's a lieutenant. God bless lieutenants. You gotta love them. One morning, Nick was coming to work, probably daydreaming about raging around the Sonoran Desert at low altitude, smelling the cordite in his cockpit after he fired the A-10's mighty Gatling gun later that day. But as he approached the front gate, Nick was snapped back to the present as he watched 2 cars collide, leaving one of them upside down and on fire. Nick didn't hesitate. Being an attack pilot, he did what he'd been trained to do by people like Cliff Bowman. And he attacked the situation. As Rotarians who believe in taking action for the betterment of our communities, I'm sure you can relate. Nick's rush towards that flaming vehicle helped the occupants, a mother and her young child, out of the car, got them to safety, and administered first aid. After the police and paramedics arrived, Nick then just quietly went about his business as if nothing had happened, probably because he wanted to get back to that sortie. But Nick, even as a lieutenant, shows that DM's airmen are always ready to run towards a crisis. And finally, I'd like you to meet Captain Colby Gray. Until about a month ago, Captain Gray was a doctor and flight surgeon at Davis-Monthan. And on 10 July 2019, he came to work expecting it to be like any ordinary Wednesday, probably like today. He'd grab some coffee, see some patients, maybe catch up on some of that never-ending paperwork. 6 hours later, it would turn out to be anything but ordinary. You see, the day prior, a crane had collapsed on the Mexican fishing trawler Tamara, crushing 2 of its crew members. And when the captain of the Tamara realized that his fishermen would succumb to their injuries before they would reach shore, he radioed for help. And the men and women of Davis-Monthan came to the rescue. Our rescue group sent in 8 pararescuemen to the Tamara to stabilize the fishermen. But when they got there, they realized treating the fishermen's injuries were likely beyond even their near superhuman capabilities. And so at 2100 Zulu, 6 hours after coming in expecting to catch up on that paperwork, Dr. Gray jumped from 13,000 feet into the Pacific Ocean from a C-130 aircraft 1,300 nautical miles off the Mexican coast. He boarded the Tamara, stabilized both fishermen, and took care of them for the next 58 hours until they were transferred to a Mexican medical team on Socorro Island. They are alive today in large part because of him. And as impressive as that is, the truly impressive part is that prior to that afternoon, Colby Gray had never even jumped out of an airplane, let alone into an ocean. But he literally leapt at the opportunity to do both if it meant saving a life. Colby Gray embodies the motto of our rescue airmen: these things we do that others may live. Colby, Nick, and Justin, they're just a few of the ordinary airmen on Davis-Monthan doing extraordinary things every single day. There are roughly 10,997 more. I hope you're as proud of them as they are of serving you and this great experiment we call America. Thank you for letting me tell you a little bit about them. And I hope you'll come out to DM, our air show. I promise you'll be impressed. And now perhaps you'll indulge this airman a little, and let me use these to hear what's on your mind. Thank you.
I can go to them. Right behind me.
Thank you for coming out today, Colonel. I was a Special Forces medic in Vietnam, so I know something about exiting aircraft in flight. And why did that C-130 push that doctor out at 13,000 feet? Why didn't they come down a little bit?
Yeah, you got me. I fly A-10s. I have jumped out of one, but I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that.
Bob Logan here.
Colonel Turnham, thanks for coming. Everybody wants to know what's going on with the A-10 mission, so why don't you just bring us up to speed on what's happening there?
Yeah, so no secret there. You guys have seen the stuff that's out. It's not a secret. The Air Force is looking to retire some A-10s. About 42 this fiscal year. Right now, the law legally, they can't touch the A-10s, so Congress has to go back and change the law on this, and they're working through that. But they would like to retire 42, 35 of them would ultimately come from Davis-Monthan, so we would probably look at closing a couple of our squadrons there. There's a lot of things that have to go through this, and for folks who've looked at, who've been here for a while and seen this, it seems like every year we go through this cycle. So what I've told the team is just focus on what you could control, which is not, I can't control what's in the law. This is the plan, and I understand it. Our aircraft they're old. We've flown them hard for the last 20 years. I mean, these planes were, I don't know, Beeve, what were they were designed for what, 6,000 hours or so, 8,000 hours? Yeah, I mean, the one I flew the other day had about 15,000 on it. Our maintainers do an amazing job keeping these things going. But we're really big on making sure we've got the right number of aircraft that we can maintain and continue flying. The Hog's going to be around for a while, at least another decade. It's going to be in DM for at least another decade, so it's not going anywhere. But yeah, we probably do need to right-size the fleet a little bit. Like I say, get your popcorn ready and look at what the budget cycle is going to be, what it's going to be doing as we go through the hearings there. So it's a good question, Bob. Thank you.
Colonel, we have a question here in the back of the
Yeah.
room from Roger.
Speaking of budgets, this proud country is, what, $23 trillion in debt, and it's spiraling out of control? 30, whatever the number is. What does the future of the Air Force look like in this, under this debt scenario?
Yeah, I don't know. Have we ever had a year where everybody said I had too much money? I mean, I don't think that exists. So we're doing what we always do. We are changing our Air Force and shaping it the way we think we need to be ready to fight for that next fight. And I think the A-10 piece is part of that. And General Brown, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, is looking at that and trying to make sure we get those aircraft we need to be competitive in that next fight with a near-peer competitor, those fifth-gen aircraft. So, yeah, to your answer, would I like more money? I mean, yeah, of course, but I mean, that's the reality. That's a little bit of the art of command, is nobody has enough. I just did a change of command where I talked about that, gave a little bit of a letter from George Washington, and he was complaining about the same things. I don't have enough manpower, I don't have enough people, I don't have enough uniforms, I don't have pay. I mean, at least our folks, we got uniforms on our back and paychecks in our pocket, so we've gotten a lot better, but this is normal. So it's a good question, but yeah, I'm not an economist, so.
We had a question over here from Mitch.
Yeah, Mitch.
Hey, Colonel, I know it's probably about 3 or 4 years till you're Secretary of the Air Force, so you wouldn't be able to change it yet. But I have a question for you. It seems like in the command changes about every 2 years, okay? And yeah, it's kind of quick, but I wanted to know, do you think that, if it were up to you, would you continue to turn it that quickly, or would you get people stay longer in their command?
Yeah, in any command in particular, or? Yeah, I don't know, Mitch. I always equate command is like a roller coaster. There's some real lows and there's some real highs, and the higher you get in command, the more the swings. So I guess it would depend on when you catch me. If it's on a low point, boy, I might be ready to go. But no, of course not. It's a phenomenal job, and quite frankly, you know, I focused my comments today on the airmen out there because I think that's one of the most impressive things, is being able to go see them and try to help them do their jobs and remove roadblocks for them. So, yeah, would I like to be there longer? Sure, but boy, it's a demanding command at any level is a demanding job. So I think that's a little bit of why.
All right, we have one last question here from Gene or Jack. Is it both of you? Okay.
Out of the airmen at Davis-Monthan, what percentage live on the base as opposed to in the community?
Yeah, the majority live in the community. So like I said, we've got about 50,000 folks on and off the base. And you know, we've got what about Mitch, you can talk to Mike, but the MSG commander for the exact number, but it's roughly 1,500, 1,800 homes that are actually, I'm getting the north-south from my expert here, of homes on the base itself. So you do the math on that with families. You see most of them are in the community. So they're living right next to you.
Colonel, every time our golf group plays at Randolph, you guys fly over. And
At Randolph.
and I seem to putt better knowing that you're there.
Okay.
A second quick comment, and then I really have a serious question. The second comment is, your maintenance guys are unbelievable. How you take these 18-year-old troops and turn them into top-notch mechanics is beyond me, but you do an outstanding job. And thank you very much for that. You're keeping the pilots alive. My question, however, is how do we justify leaving Afghanistan? And what are your thoughts, if you're allowed to make some thoughts, because the media is not telling us everything, and I wondered if you might share a thought or two about leaving that country and what kind of shape it'll be in when we go.
No, it's a fair question. It's a tough question. You know, I've spent honestly, until I think about this year, I've spent more time now in Tucson than anywhere else. But until this last year, Afghanistan, I've had more time there than anywhere else. Yeah, I think, folks, that's a fair question. I don't have a good answer for you on what's going to happen. I don't know. I can speculate, but I don't know that that's really helpful. I know that our civilian leadership made a decision. I don't necessarily disagree with that, and it doesn't really matter whether I do or I don't. That's the way this works. We raise our right hand to the Constitution. So they made that decision. That's the play the coach sent in, and we're going to put the ball in the end zone. So what happens there, I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough place. All right, Mark. Thanks.
Colonel, thanks for your presentation. Hopefully you'll enjoy your lunch now. I don't know if you have the ability to stick around for a moment afterwards, but I'm sure there's a number of people that are probably curious about what is an honorary commander, and if somebody had an interest in that, what kind of process would they go through? I mean, you could obviously ask some of us that either are or were honorary commanders, and that's available to you. So as everybody knows, we have a tradition in our club, Colonel, where we have our keynote speaker sign a book. Today's book is Amazing Facts About Military Vehicles. This will go into our Make Way for Books library. I'll bring it down in a minute and have you sign that for us. Thank you for a great presentation. It's always good to see you, sir. So we got a couple of birthday folks going on here, and I'm going to start with my buddy, Mr. Ronstadt, and I'm going to ask when I introduce him, because I asked both he and the fine doctor, who we're going to recognize as well, 4 questions, and they didn't answer it. 5 questions. What is something about you that nobody knows? What is your favorite Rotary dinner? If you were going to order dinner, what would it be? Why did you join Rotary? Why do you stay? And what are your plans to make it even better? So our first person is Jim Ronstadt. He was born on July 15th. He's been a member since June of 1980. His classification is Insurance, Risk Management, Employee Benefits. He's with Ronstadt Insurance. He's a U of A grad, and he was the Rotary Club president back in 89 and 90. Jim, come up and say hi. Chris, good to see you too. Here's the questions. You can just rattle them off. There you go.
Well, let me tell you first, this is a great year. I finally got to 80 years old. I've been in Rotary for 41 years, served as your past president, and that was a blast. Other things that are great this year, my wife and I are celebrating 59 years. I like steak for a birthday dinner. I joined Rotary because Red Malone, who was president of Santa Rita Bottling Company back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, invited me to join. It's been wonderful. I am a 3rd-generation Rotarian. My son is a 4th. and we love Rotary. Fred also was a Rotarian in another club, and so I've got two sons that have gone on to Rotary. Why do I stay? I think the programs are one thing, the car show and what we do in this community are another, and I think the JTED, which we have adopted for our 100th year, is probably one of the most important things going in Tucson. We don't have carpenters, we don't have bricklayers, we don't have a lot of plumbers, and this is, as far as I'm concerned, is the answer to some of our problems. Finally, what you may not know about me, I'm crazy about roses. I've got quite a garden, and damn the city and their water bills. I've also got a check for Rotary, $100 for Charlotte Harris's ride in honor of Mike and Hugh Thompson.
Jim, thank you. Chris, you've got your hands full. Next up, we've got my doctor, Bill Shaw's doctor, a number of you guys' doctor, the world-famous Alan Rogers. He was born July 18th. He's been a member since October of '09. His classification, guess what? Medical and healthcare physician. Can you believe that? He's with Arizona Community Partners, University of Colorado, and Baylor College of Medicine grad. And Alan, come on up. And I've left this sheet here, and you have to answer these 5 questions.
All right, 1 minute, 1 minute. Anybody who goes to basketball knows what that is. First, I'm so glad to be back in the club here since the COVID epidemic and stuff. I really missed it. You guys did not want me coming to the meetings because I really was dealing with COVID patients and so forth. My message, I think this room probably is okay with this, but get your vaccination, please, okay? I have been a member actually since 1985. I had a little hiatus there, and that reset my when I joined and so forth, but it's been since 1985. Roger Snapp introduced me and was his mentor, and Roger Snapp is doing fine, so I see him every once in a while. I did not go to Sal Point, but I did drive by there one time, so. No, as a physician, I am so honored and privileged to get to know people from all walks of life. And so I had Ed Doherty as a patient years ago. And there's a very famous Arizona sports trivia question that Ed Doherty is the answer to. And I have here a Rotary Tucson Classics Car Show ticket here, a $10 value for the first person who can tell me the answer to the trivia question that involves Ed Doherty, who is not Bob Logan. Okay.
He was the one and only man who was head coach of football at ASU and U of A different times.
Excellent. Only man, and probably ever will that be, but was head football coach of Arizona State and Arizona. All right. Anyway, thing you don't know about me, I was born in Venezuela, which has caused me numerous difficulties with passport applications and border and oh my gosh. So anyway, but that's what you don't know. Here's a check for the scholarship fund. Thank you.
Bo, what's his favorite dinner?
Anything, but the food here is outstanding. Oh my gosh. But I was very pleased and relieved that the food at the TCC was great. So anything at the TCC.
Cool. Alan, thank you. Thank you for the check. Thank you for the check as well. Again, another check not payable to me. We need to work on this. So it's now time to introduce a new member. We're going to have Jeannie Flower come up. She's been a member since February of 19. Her classification is Finance Community Bank. She's with RBC Wealth Management. She also is responsible for everything social on the board. Jeannie.
super excited to get to introduce Nicole today, especially because I spent 7 years of my childhood on Lightning Drive, so very thrilled. Thank you for all you do. Nicole was born in Madison, Wisconsin, and grew up boating in the summers and skiing in the winters. Tucson became her home in 1980. Although her university experience started at NAU, she graduated at the U of A. After graduation, in an effort to nurture her wanderlust, she pursued a career that would take her outside of Tucson in the airline or cruise ship industry, but with no luck. Fortunately, she was hired at a local resort, which led to careers for many years in the resort and airline industry. Currently, she manages a commercial property and is pursuing a new career path in grant writing. Nicole has a passion for volunteering. Right club to be in for that, right? In earlier years, she led her daughter's Girl Scout troops, was a member of the school PTA, and watered livestock at the Pima County Fair, while her daughter entered prize-winning chickens and rabbits in 4-H events. And she spent endless hours during the summer at pool timing meets, working at the snack shack and cheering on the swim team. Daughters are mostly grown now, and her volunteering focuses have shifted a bit. She's currently on the board at La Paloma Property Owners Association and actively raising prostate cancer research funds for Johns Hopkins Brady Urological Institute. She continues to support her community through giving time and financial support to nonprofits such as Habitat for Humanity and Youth on Their Own. In her free time, Nicole is an avid hiker of local trails. Among her most challenging hikes are the north and the south rim of the Grand Canyon and the Inca Trail. She enjoys traveling, gardening, birding, night sky watching, skiing, baking, and cooking with her 2 daughters, and has recently discovered her interest in sailing. Something kind of quirky about Nicole is she likes to write haiku poems for her friends. Please welcome Nicole.
Thank you. I want to thank Jeannie for her friendship, first of all, and for leading me to become a Rotary member. It took about a year for me to be able to make that commitment, but I'm so glad to be here, and I'm very thankful for my mentor, Vicki Jacobs. I'm not sure if she's here today, but she's been fantastic at showing me the ropes and leading me to a recent sponsorship fulfillment position with the Classic Car Show. So super glad to be here and part of a club who puts service above self, and primary goal is to support our wonderful community. Thanks.
Yes, this is all your Rotary good stuff that you get to take with you, and then I know they're going to want to do a photo, so here we go. Look, aren't I lucky? Thanks, Lee. Thank you. By the way, I think it's so cool. Nicole has just jumped right in, very involved in the car show. Nicole, thank you. So we're going to have a couple of presentations here. We're going to start off with, I like to refer to him as past tense, Bob Logan. That's a nickname we gave him when he stepped down as president. He's been a member since March of '08. Classification, Education, University Development. He's a grad of the Air Force Academy, NAU, and U of A. I think he even went to Sal Point. He's a past president. He's won some awards here like Orville McPherson, and he was a great mentor to me. That's kind of what you get stuck with. So he's here to make a presentation to Andrea. And by the way, if my cohort was here, she'd tell him to sit down. So Bob, if you'll behave, you can talk.
All right, thank you. Thank you, President Mark. Alan Rogers, that was a suck-up comment about the TCC to Mark, I got to tell you, you know. By the way, Ed Doherty, I actually coached with Ed Doherty at Sal Point. Here's a trivia question that you probably don't know. In addition to the U of A ASU thing, he coached with Vince Lombardi. I bet you didn't know that. Wow. There you go. Colonel Turnham, thanks for everything you do. You know, when we say thank you for your service, we truly mean it from the heart. Thank you for coming today. We have a special Paul Harris presentation. It is for Jose and Adriana Rincon and their deceased son, Jose Luis Wapo Rincon. Today, we come closer to world peace and understanding through the presentation of these Paul Harris Fellows Awards. Today's a special day for Jose and Adriana. I want you to know that the Paul Harris Fellowship is one of the highest honors that Rotary bestows on individuals. And today's Paul Harris Awards for you and your son, Wapo, have been funded by some very generous Rotarians in the club. I want you to know how the Paul Harris Fellowship funding is used. Let me give you a couple of examples. Number one, the donations buy the precious polio vaccine to eliminate polio from the face of the earth. They help children learn how to read. They provide precious clean water to communities that don't have access, and many other humanitarian projects around the world. So the Paul Harris Fellowship does great work in the world. Jose and Adriana Rincon. Although neither was born in Tucson, Arizona, Adriana and Jose are both Tucson natives. Adriana was born in Monterey, California, where her father was stationed with the Army. She moved to Tucson when she was 5 and grew up on the west side of town, graduating from Cholla High School, University of Arizona, studying education. Jose Rincon was born in Nogales, Sonora, Mexico, and moved to Tucson when he was 10 years old. Tucson was meant to be a one-year exercise for Jose and his two brothers to come to America and learn how to speak English. However, it turned out to be the rest of his life, thanks to the help of family, friends, teachers, and coaches. Jose attended which high school? South Point Catholic, thank you very much. Jose was a fantastic athlete, winning the city championship against Cholla High School. Cholla High School, are you shitting me? Really? Cholla? Well, truth be told, Cholla had Sean Elliott on their team. So that was a heck of a city championship, and Jose was part of that team. He was having an incredible high school experience. Sadly, prior to the summer of his senior year, due to financial issues, his family had to move back to Guadalajara. And Jose was devastated. He would be leaving his friends and his family and his basketball teammates. I'm really, really proud to say that I played a role in helping him stay in Tucson and helping him stay at South Point. Because Judy and I had just been married a couple of months earlier. My parents had passed away. We had a 4-bedroom home. So Jose lived with us his senior year at South Point. And we are so happy. It was a year that neither one of us forget. I won't talk about the Chevy Impala and the issues that Jose brought to that car. Not appropriate for this presentation. Let's talk about Adriana and Jose. They married in June of 1989. They have 3 children. They have Gabby, 28, their oldest daughter, who is a teacher. Julie, 21, will be a senior at ASU in the College of Nursing. And their son, Jose Luis Jr., was tragically killed in 2008 by a drunk driver. Today, he would be 27. Jose and Adriana are heavily, heavily invested in our community. Jose has been in medical sales and marketing for more than 30 years. Adriana is in real estate sales and property management. In addition to their respective careers, they're very active philanthropists. Adriana is a founding member of Tucson's National Charity League and is currently the chair for Angel Charity for Children, and they give out hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Jose, on the other hand, is a past president of the Tucson Conquistadors and has served on the board for the Boys and Girls Club, and both have volunteered at Tunadito. If you don't know what Tunadito is, it's an organization dedicated to serving children when sickness or death come to the family, which clearly served the Rincon family quite well during the loss of their son. So if we could, just give a round of applause for Jose and Adriana for their Paul Harris Fellowship. I'd like to take just a couple of minutes, if you'll indulge me, with a story about Wapo. He was born in 1993, died 2008. The wonderful but truly tragic story of Jose Rincon Jr. is worth hearing if you've not heard it. Jose, affectionately called Wapo, which is interesting because I've been called Wapo for many, many years. And until I got this script, I thought Wapo meant jerk, all right? So I'm incredibly proud to know that Wapo means handsome. So This has really worked out well for me. I learned something in Spanish today. Wapo was truly the bright light in the Rincon household. He was a great brother to his two sisters. He was a straight-A student at St. Michael's Parish Day School. On Saturday, January the 12th, Wapo had just completed his entrance exam to go to South Point High School. So he was truly excited. He was going to be a basketball player. He had just won the MVP award at the Lute Olson basketball camp, and he wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps at South Point. He was also a very accomplished mariachi musician, which you'll see here in the middle picture for Mariachi Brillante, and just an incredible kid. Later that day, after the entrance exam, he and his best friend Oscar Perez were driving down, or on a bike down Broadway, just east of Harrison Road, on their way home for dinner, and then they were hit from behind by a drunk driver. And this was very much in the newspaper back in the day. Many of you have driven around Tucson and seen these ghost bikes. Well, I've never met anybody that was one of these victims. Well, this is Wapo's ghost bike. I don't even want to give her the name, give her the benefit of her name, but the woman that hit Wapo had spent 6 hours drinking at Chewy's at 22nd and Kolb and got her in her car, and when she was arrested, she blew a .25, 3 times the legal limit of alcohol. She was convicted and spent 14 years in prison. Adriana and Jose have done an amazing job honoring their son, and I'll just go through a couple of slides here. This is where they live on 6th Street. It's just a little bit east of Country Club. This is their home, their entrance into their driveway, and they have a beautiful plaque outlining the background of Wapo, and on the ground they have this stone that recognizing him. And what's really interesting, Jones Boulevard, if you remember back in the day, Jones Boulevard used to go into the west side of Elcon Mall. You could go to Levy's, and then they closed it off when the Walmart went in. So Jones Boulevard basically was cut off, but that's where the Rincons live. So Wapo learned how to ride a bike and play basketball on Jones Boulevard, and after this tragic thing that happened, they negotiated with the city to name it Wapo Way. So that was a great, great result, and I'm just so proud to have Adriana and Jose and Wapo as new Paul Harris Fellows. Thank you very much. Please welcome them. So we have a tradition here, this is really a great honor, but we don't give great prizes at the end. Now, in this case, we made one exception. Adriana, you get a real prize. So Daryl, could you bring up Adriana's gift from the club?
Oh, thank you.
And Jim Ronstadt did not grow those in his backyard, I don't believe. Now, these two are humongous Phoenix Suns fans, and it was a bad day for them yesterday. I went to the card shop to get a Devin Booker card and an Andre Ayton card and a Chris Paul. Well, they're all sold out. So I put together a team that I think is better than the team that played last night. So you've got Kevin Johnson and Steve Nash at guard. You've got Tom Chambers at center, Danny Manning as a forward, and also Dan Marley. You can get a drink at his bar. And then I got Chris Middleton from the Bucks just to rub it in a little bit. Thank you very much.
Adriana, we have a push going on for women in the club, so we'd love to have you. Jose, not so much so, sorry. We really have one more presentation, and we are going to run a little bit over today. because Bob doesn't understand what 5 minutes means. But anyway, we have a Triple Crown presentation, and I would like to ask District Governor Hank to come up and make a special presentation. Hank, thanks for joining us.
Okay. Oh, and I took the wrong ones. My other notes.
Part of my job, Hank.
Bless you, Liz. Goodness gracious. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm very delighted to be invited here today. Is this okay for you? Is it too loud? Okay. To honor two very special people who you may not know. I met in Sierra Vista. How many people know where Sierra Vista is? Oh, good. I'm so happy. Well, that's where I'm living now, and that's where Ernie and Sally used to live. And when I met them, he was the great recruiter. We were doing Cowboy Poets, and I was hired to write his thank you notes for donations. So we've come a long way, and I joined Rotary, and he, again, was the great recruiter. We all worked at his district conference in Sierra Vista, and you were probably the last one to have a district conference in Sierra Vista. So it's very exciting. But, you know, Ernie and Sally are not only big givers in Rotary, and that's part of what I'm going to talk about today is the Triple Crown presentation. That is something that Ernie actually created in our district. And so it's still new to a lot of people, but I'll bet there are a lot of people in this room who may be recipients of the Triple Crown. So let's go. Okay, you ready? All right, you're receiving your Triple Crown recognition pins. And if you get close enough to them today, you'll get to see that both of them are wearing their Triple Crown recognition pins. It represents their dedication to Rotary as reflected in the commitments of being Paul Harris Society members, major donors, and members of the Rotary Foundation Bequest Society. We know that they are also members of the Arch Clump Society and Legacy Society. And I have this very special note because I do want to tell you, not everybody gets this. Both of them have a brick in their name at the site where Paul Harris is laid to rest. I don't know how you do that. You'll have to talk to them afterwards. Sally and Ernie have served both as district governors, Sally in 2014-15 and Ernie in 2010-11. Both have continued to serve in various and significant district leadership positions with great enthusiasm, I have to say. Sally joined the Sierra Vista Sunrise Club, where I was this morning. They say hello. And later joined the Rotary Club of Tucson when they moved up here in 2011. Ernie joined the Noon Club in 1997, and when they moved to Tucson, he joined the Tucson Sunrise Club and has now followed Sally here. By way of a little background, Sally graduated from Vassar College on a full scholarship and received her Doctor of Jurisprudence from Georgetown University Law Center. For 7 years, she worked in a private law practice. For the next 20, she was senior felony trial attorney for Public Defender Service of Washington, D.C. She represented criminal defendants charged with crimes of violence in federal and District of Columbia courts. The movie Suspect with Cher, Dennis Quaid, and Liam Neeson was made in her office and loosely based on one of her murder cases using some of her exhibits. She even had a cameo appearance in one of the scenes. A few of her interesting positions included working for the White House staffs of John Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson, and to show that she is bipartisan, she served as the Assistant Director of Patronage to President Dwight Eisenhower. Sally was married for 20 years, single for 10, before meeting Ernie at a singles tennis tournament in Delaware. Oddly enough, Ernie was also previously married for 20 years and single for 10 before they married. They each have a daughter and a son from their previous marriages and several grandchildren. How many?
12 for me.
12. A lot. They have been married 30 years. That deserves a clap. And during all of this, Sally has also taught skiing as a professionally certified ski instructor. Ernie has a Doctorate of Science degree from George Washington University. He enjoyed 35 successful years as a senior operations analyst, 22 of those years with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, serving in Germany, Greenland, Vietnam, and Korea. His second career was as a defense analyst at Fort Huachuca, responsible for test and evaluation of military weapon systems until his retirement. Ernie is passionate about many Rotary programs, but the challenge of polio is close to his heart. As district governor, he said yes to the district sponsoring the Ride to End Polio after the Casas Adobes Rotary Club initiated it. Thank you to Mike. Ernie's enthusiasm had him ride his first ride that year, and he has ridden every year since. And then, at the 2012 Rotary International Convention in Bangkok, Ernie invited Rotary International's General Secretary John Hugo, a bicycling enthusiast, to ride with our club that November. I guess your club, not mine. John came, and John has been back every year since, bringing a team from Rotary International headquarters with him. I am told by our Ride to End Polio chair, Gary Hirsch, that he is coming this year, right? Good. John was later named as the single rider who historically raised the most money through the L Tour. So now you know the rest of the story of Ernie's part in being an active team member regarding the $60 million raised to date through the Ride to End Polio through the Gates match. Together, Sally and Ernie have traveled all over the world, including all of the states in the United States, Africa, Asia, Europe, United Kingdom, and the Middle East, working with numerous and varied Rotary projects. Examples are the Polio Immunization Day in West Africa, water health and education projects to 50 villages in Niger and Togo, and attendance at more than 18 international conventions. That's a lot. They have been Rotary speakers, presenters, and facilitators for numerous trainings, received numerous Rotary awards. Today, we honor Sally and Ernie as they continue their passionate and dedicated journey with Rotary and significant participation of Rotary programs and projects, not only through financial support, but also of your personal time. Please join me in congratulating and thanking Ernie and Sally. Thank you. And if anyone would like to look at their crystals at their reserve table, there are these special things that Rotary sends. So if you're just wandering by, please look. Thank you both. Sure. Thank you. We're ready.
Congratulations and thank you for all you do for Rotary. We're going to have a 1-minute history moment with our pal Charlotte Harris. She's been a member since November of 2000, classification education, administrative secondary. She's a U of A grad. I think she had something to do with Sal Point, and she was a president back in 2008 and 9. Charlotte.
Thank you. It's a little more than a minute. Okay, World War I ended in 1918, and several young veterans were members of the Tucson Luncheon Club, where the charter members of our club came in 1921. Two of those young vets, Jack Lyman, an architect who designed the major buildings on the U of A campus, and Andy Martin, a druggist, were instrumental in getting Orville McPherson to write to the headquarters of Rotary in Kiwanis in Chicago, which was the beginning of our club. Young vet Lyman was a member of our club for 38 years, Martin for 48. Fast forward to 1940, when the Selective Service was initiated and the National Guard mobilized, and a year later, Rotarian Herb Bloom, who many of us remember, became the first Tucson Rotarian to volunteer for active duty. By 1943, halfway through World War II, 8 Rotarians and more than 35 sons of Rotarians were in service. During those war years, Rotarians purchased war bonds and encouraged others to do so too. In 1967, the grandson of charter member Samuel Seeney and son of member Mac Lovett was our speaker in October of that year, speaking as a first lieutenant in the Army Reserves. Pictured on the screen is David Lovett, who made that presentation, a third-generation member of our club today who joined in 1969. Members of our club have also served in various conflicts. For example, John Wong, who was a Green Beret in Vietnam. Over the years, there have been a number of active airmen from Davis-Monthan who have been members of our Rotary Club. In recent years, 2 joined at different times as A-10 pilots. Both served on deployments in the Middle East, and now as retired military, serve as civilians training A-10 pilots with AVEX Incorporated. We are proud of the service of Cliff Bowman and Robin Stoddard. Another connection with the base is the DM50, a support organization of local businessmen and women that from its inception in 1985 has had members of our club participate. Today there are 12 members of our Rotary Club who are members of the DM50. And additionally, as mentioned, members of our club have served and today serve as honorary commanders of various units at DM. And today we learned about the Winers and Diners and their support of the base too. I wish there was time to recognize all of our club members who are veterans, as our deepest appreciation goes to them and the sacrifices of their family members. And to you, Colonel Thurman, thank you to you and your family for your service to our country too.
So that was a 2-minute presentation made in 1 minute. I got to tell you, that was Charlotte, I can't believe how good you are at that. So where's our pal Chris Dodge? Chris?
Yeah, I'm right here.
I think you got a couple of things we need to talk about. What's our first thing up? We talking about the fly fishing?
Yeah, that's you.
So check out this young man. This is David Lovett's grandson, August. August is a budding fisherman. He is in competition with Dr. Alan Rogers. I think his fish is larger, Alan. I don't want to get into it. I know it's an American shad, not a nice rainbow like yours, but it's still a nice fish. That fish cost David $100, which is really great. Anybody that has got a fishing picture they want to share or you want a customized deal, I'll be going fishing in about a week or so. So if you want a fish named after you, that'd be the time to do it. One other announcement I want to just make really quickly is don't forget Women's Day is next week. We're also going to be doing a group photo. Our photo is a little antiquated, and so all the guests, we want them that are coming that day as well to be in that photo. And then where's Joe Danzeski?
He's going to bypass that.
He is? Okay.
Yeah, so you can go on him.
So we have any other announcements?
No, sir.
Check it out. Okay, so in closing, I just want to thank all of you for joining us, whether you're in person or you're joining us virtually. If you like what you see and you'd like to learn more, just reach out to one of us. If you'd like to donate to our scholarship cups, that cup is at the back table at the registration. Don't forget to turn in your badges in the basket at the back table. If you have not received your new Rotary pin, you need to see Dorina or Carrie, and they'll help you with that. I want to say a big thank you to my pals at Winers and Diners that are scattered here and then across the room. You guys are amazing. Thanks for what you do at the base and for being here today to support our pal, the Colonel. Happy birthday to Jim and Alan. I want to say congratulations to Ernie and Sally on your recognition, and also to our pals at Rincons. Thank you guys so much for being here today. And Jose, I was only kidding about you couldn't join him. Next week, don't forget, is, Colonel, thank you for your service. Next week, don't forget, is Adia Barnes. That's also Women's Day. We're going to do the group photo. And so we're going to end with a quick toast. And I don't have a glass. Jeannie, you might hand me a glass? You're the best. Thank you. So we are really focusing in our centennial year on what we would call Tucson treasures. Davis-Monthan Air Force Base is at the top of that list. Its history and engagement in our community and our nation is just amazing. So many in our clubs have huge ties to DM and to the Air Force. We're honored to be amongst you. Here's a toast to the folks in blue. Thank you for your service and your sacrifices. We are adjourned. Thank you for joining us, the Rotary Club of Tucson's YouTube channel. This is